So it's my pleasure to introduce our first resource person, Mr. Hemida Javira. I think most of you might be knowing about him already, but it's my duty to introduce him to you all. Mr. Hemida Javira is a serial innovator and entrepreneur. He co-founded the Gendo, a medical startup which has patents in US and Japan. He also co-founded Turu, a green tech initiative which focused on utilizing technology for accelerating reforestation. He is a director of Effective Solution Private Limited, an IoT company, and also in Weber Solutions, a company working on solutions related to plastic recycling and upcycling technology. And he is also the first. He also was a director of Ceylon Graphene Technologies, which is the first graphene and advanced material company in Sri Lanka. He co-founded Venture Frontiera Lanka, an integrated startup platform focused on development of the complete startup cycle. I think this shows his enthusiasm in startup formation in Sri Lanka. Heminda is a board member at Trace and a council member of National Innovation Agency Sri Lanka. He is a seasoned trainer on design thinking and rapid prototyping for corporates. Heminda has obtained his bachelor's degree in electronics and telecommunication engineering and has a master in business administration in management of technology from University of Moratuwa. So without taking much of time, I would like to invite Mr. Hemida Javira to take the floor. And to all dear participants, I would like to say that make your participation a success, and also make sure that if you have any questions, please type in the chat box, and we will try our best to pass all those messages to Professor Mr. Javira. And also, if you have further questions after the session, you can email it to our post email, which was shared yesterday. And I wish you all a successful session. Over to you, Mr. Javira.
Thank you, Binda. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Hemida.
Right, okay. So slides are already uploaded, right? Is it?
Yeah, it is. Hemida, right.
Right, okay. Right, I can use the slides anytime, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Professor Rohan and Vindya. So I think today I have about 2 hours, so how does it go?
It's 40 minutes.
40 minutes, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
so based
I
on
think
the
you can manage,
40
yes.
minutes,
Say it again.
I try to cover. Yeah. So the topic is a very broad topic.
It is, yeah.
So it's an introduction to entrepreneurship, and maybe a little bit on design thinking aspects as well. So, but I will go through a different, use a different track. More, I will start with innovation and focus on the what is real entrepreneurship required for Sri Lanka, and the kind of how a young budding entrepreneur can enter this into entrepreneurial world. So that's what I'm going to touch upon. So it's a very I would say I will just give you pointers only because given the time constraint. But then obviously, if you want to ask any questions, if you want to send certain questions, you can do it anytime. I'm available even after this session as well, right? So how do I share this?
Hemid, you can share your screen.
Right, okay.
And if you can launch your PowerPoint, that would be great. Or do you want me to share the slides, your slides from
If
here?
possible, it's easy. I think it'll manage my data also, right? Otherwise, there can be issues.
Okay. Right. In that case,
If you can share
sure.
the innovation slide deck.
Yeah, definitely. I can do that. Is this all right, Minda?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So let me start with very fundamental. I think we can go to the next slide. Very fundamental question about what is innovation, because the entrepreneurship, the topic of entrepreneurship, if I ask you what is really entrepreneurship, entrepreneurship is, what you have to understand is, it's not business, right? It's not about becoming a businessman, right? I think this differentiation you need to understand. So the real meaning or the definition of entrepreneurship is basically you are trying to solve problems faced by many people. So that's the, I mean, if you want to call yourself an entrepreneur, so entrepreneur is someone who is trying to solve problems faced by many people. So it doesn't talks about anything related to money. You have to understand. So, but what happens is, if you identify the right problem in the right way and come up with the right solution, money will flow. So that's why globally, if you look at the best entrepreneurs are the most, I mean, the wealthiest people on earth. So I think if you look at the last maybe 100 years, the wealthiest people were the best of the entrepreneurs. So the trick is that I think you have to identify a problem faced by not just one person, not a few people, but many people. I mean, if it is a problem for millions of people, it's really, I mean, you can identify the real problem faced by that 1 million people and come up with a solution, you are going to be a very successful entrepreneur. And if it is a billions people's problem, you are going to be one of the best entrepreneurs that you can, I mean, the whole world would be talking about. So I think that's where the real trick is, how to identify these problems faced by many people. So if I go to few very interesting, entrepreneurs globally, for example, if you look at, say, someone like Mark Zuckerberg, what he did was he identified a problem faced by billions of people. What he did was very simple. I think if I take you back to probably say 25 years back, right? This is actually my time when I left school. I left school in 1997, almost 26 years ago. This was before Facebook and before even social media. So there was a time that, we were in school almost 12 years together. And once you leave school, there was a chance that, you will never meet your friends again. So that was the time. For example, every day you met your friend at school, your classes, but suddenly when you left school after A-level or O-level, there was a chance that you will never even meet those people again in your entire life. So that was the problem faced by not just us, but billions of people globally. So I think what Zuckerberg did was he identified this problem, identified in the right way the real problem, and came up with a solution called Facebook. I think now today, the school leavers, the people who leave school, they don't have that issue. As long as they have a Facebook account, you can still be connected with them, obviously virtually, but then obviously that connection is there forever. So I think that's what he did. It's not a rocket science. I mean, it's not something that very difficult problem that he solved. It's an obvious problem, but then came up with a solution, exact solution to solve that problem. That's why not just millions, but billions of people embrace that solution. That's why Facebook has more than 1 billion. I mean, close to about 3 billion people connected there. And that's how we came up with a real valuable business case as well. But what you have to understand is, I will just run through that business case itself. In the first 3 years of Facebook, they didn't have a business case. For example, they didn't have a monetization method. So the monetization method came much later. when Sheryl Sandberg came into the picture as the COO. So until such time, he didn't have a monetization method, so not even a business case. But then what he showed to the investors was that he had solved the problem faced by billions of people. So I think as entrepreneurs, what you have to understand is you have to identify what are these problems faced by more than millions of people. I mean, don't focus on Sri Lanka, but if you can focus those problems globally, you will see that that kind of billion-dollar companies or billion-dollar entrepreneurs can come from Sri Lanka as well. So if you look at some of the countries, I mean, Zuckerberg obviously came from USA, but there are many entrepreneurs who have come from smaller countries than Sri Lanka. For example, say take Israel, take Estonia. Israel has about 6 or 7 billion-dollar companies. We call it unicorns. Even Estonia, which is just 3 million population, just closer to 1/10 of Sri Lanka. When you talk about the population, but Estonia has produced about 3 unicorns as of now. The size of the country or where the country is immaterial, but what you have to do is we have to find that the problem in the right way, the right problem, and come up with a solution which can be scalable, and you have to support that scalability as well. So I think, so just to give a very basic introduction about what is entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship comes in different forms today. I think the number one people talks a lot these days is the startup. Startup model is a different model that came up maybe 20, 30 years back. But what you usually see in entrepreneurship world is the SME model, which is called, small and medium scale businesses. Usually those are like family businesses. If you take globally, nearly 80% of global business are SMEs. Even in Sri Lanka, it's about, I think, closer to 60 to 70% Sri Lankan business are SMEs. So that's where the real entrepreneurs are there. But then startup is a new thing. I think difference lies in how they execute. Usually SMEs are, I'm saying 90% of the time are family business. And they have maybe less innovation. If you look at it, the growth also not so fast. But startups, they are not family business usually. Maybe a few friends get together, maybe totally unknown few people get together and come up with. But there's rapid growth in startups, and also you will see that innovation is a primary indicator of a startup. Good innovations, great innovations. So I think that's where the difference, but both are whether it's a startup or an SME, all these categories are run by entrepreneurs. So the key thing that you have to understand is entrepreneur is a person who is trying to solve a global challenge, grand global challenge faced by many people, not 10 or 50, not 100, not 1,000, maybe millions, maybe billions. So let me go back to, when you give that explanation, so let's go to the second slide. Second slide. So innovation is a very important thing that you have to understand, because that's where the whole idea of startups are built. And even nowadays, a lot of even SMEs also look at this. Even the mature corporates also now look at this. As they talks about areas like lean startup model and all this. What they're trying to do is to identify different problems and come up that entrepreneurial journey even within corporates as well. So if you look at, if you go through this, what Reid Hoffman says. Reid Hoffman is one of the super angels in Silicon Valley. So what he says is, it's very important. Just read this. Innovations come from long-term thinking and iterative execution. So remember these 3 words: long-term thinking, iterative, and execution. So if you can't do these 3, right, you can't be an innovator, you can't be an entrepreneur. So long-term thinking is, entrepreneurship is not for people who want to focus on something for few days, even few months. and not even for a year. So you have to be focused on long term. Long term means 3 to 5 years, 10 years, even more if required. And iterative also very important word. So innovation, this entrepreneurship is not an exciting thing to do. Remember, a lot of people talks about this. I think don't get you know don't take it in a wrong way. Becoming an entrepreneur, becoming an innovator is not an exciting thing to do, right? It's very boring if you really look at it. Now I'll give you some example. When Thomas Alva Edison, when he did this incandescent lamp, the first light bulb, the story says that he tested with about 800 different filament materials and did the same test 800 times until he find the best material for the lamp. So it's not exciting thing to do. 800 times you have to do the same thing iteratively. So I think that's, if you don't have that capability to do the same thing over again and again, fail it and still do it again, it's a very boring thing to do if you really look at. I mean, you will feel quitting the job at any time, but if you have to focus on what you're trying to do. So I think if you don't have that capability, that skill, it's very difficult for you to become an innovator or entrepreneur. So I think that's very important. Long-term thinking, iterative, and execution. It's very important. If everything is in your head and it's just a plan only, you will never become an entrepreneur. It has to be executed. Execution is the important thing. So whether it's right or wrong, you have to start doing it. Obviously, how you reduce your risk is basically you have to do a lot of pre-planning and all that. But then if you keep on planning only, nothing will be executed and you will never become an entrepreneur. So you can't be 100% perfect, but you have to really focus and execute what you do really fast. So that's what is all about. I think don't believe in what I say, but believe in what Reid Hoffman says. He's the entrepreneur behind LinkedIn, a $1 billion startup, and today it's obviously bought by Microsoft. But Reid Hoffman still holds about, I think, close to about 10% of the shares, which now values about $30 billion US dollars. So and then he's investing in a lot of other startups. That's why we call him a super angel in Silicon Valley. So he says exactly what is innovation and entrepreneurship also the same. You have to make sure that long-term thinking, you have to have that iterative execution, and that is where everything starts. So let's move on to perhaps a few slides down, Professor. Go to next slide. Yeah, keep it here. Yeah. So I think so. A lot of people talks about in Sri Lankan scenarios. I think if you look at maybe let's go to the next slide, Professor. The one after that. One after that. Yeah, this one. So this is, I just want to give you a very simple example of what happened to Sri Lanka over the period of maybe 1965 to say 2015. I have only data up to that time. So maybe 40, 50 years. So this is a very interesting chart. This on your y-axis, you will see the exports, and on your x-axis, the years. So the yellow colored ones are the more plantation oriented exports, rubber and plantation related exports. So way back in 1965, nearly 80% of the exports were based on that, very simple products. But if you look at this blue one, this is apparel industry, started in 1978 after the open economy. And then it rapidly grew. I think by 2000, 2005, it was giving Sri Lanka about 60% of the export income. But now it's going down. So the story today, it's even lower. So, but this is typically what you call it industry S-curve. So nothing wrong with the apparel industry. It happened to apparel industry also. So usually it starts, go a nice growth, and then it fades away, the growth, and then it goes down. So that is, so we are in a plateau phase, or maybe going down the hill now in apparel industry. But this is a typical S-curve. But then The problem is, if you look at some of the countries like, say, Thailand, Vietnam, and other countries, we will see the same S-curve. But when the existing S-curve goes in a downward spiral, you will see that different S-curves, new industries coming up. But in Sri Lanka, what we have seen is we are still looking or searching for that new S-curve. So a lot of people thought, okay, after apparel, it should be IT. But IT also has still not come up to the expectation. For example, if you take apparel industry, which is a $5 billion industry as of now, but IT is still about 1 billion. I mean, if you look at, if you want to compete with and say that we are the next apparel industry, we are still far behind. So we are still searching for that so-called new industry S-curve. So that's where the problem that we face in Sri Lanka right now. So that's why we need entrepreneurs. That's why we need innovators to change this scenario. Let's move on to the next slide. Yeah, so this slide also will show the need for Sri Lanka to come up with entrepreneurs. Again, it's 2014-15 data, but still valid today. This shows that Sri Lanka's exports, different colors shows the complexity of what we sell. For example, the blue color, if you take Sri Lanka, most of our exports are low complex products. I mean, just go through Sri Lankan product portfolio. We sell mostly very simple products. Even tea is a simple product. But our high complex product, for example, high tech exports is less than 2%. So high tech means, say, when it comes to software, AI level related ones, maybe electronics, car manufacturing, shipbuilding, nanotechnology, biotechnology, pharmaceuticals. These are the ones that we talk about high tech. So our exports, if you take the entire exports basket, our high tech exports are very low. So I think this is something we need to change. But if you look at the countries not so developed even now, for example, Vietnam, the next one is, I think, Vietnam, then Thailand, even Malaysia. They are more complex products are forms a much bigger percentage. So I think that's why those countries are moving really fast. But again, Sri Lanka is not doing that well. The reason behind is that not that we don't have good experts. We still, we have very good experts in almost all these areas, but we are not developing because we don't have the right entrepreneurs to do that. So I think that's where the real problem is. Even in Sri Lanka, we are one of the lowest in terms of entrepreneurs to population. So one of the lowest, if not the lowest, in Asia. So I think that's something that we need to change. So that's why this entire program is developed by National Innovation Agency, because we need more entrepreneurs to come forward. And entrepreneurship is not about something that, like if you start today, you can't become a successful entrepreneur. Globally, it's about like 5 to 10% success rate. So, but if you are getting only, say, 100 entrepreneurs out of Sri Lanka, you will only get 5 successful entrepreneurs. So we have to create or focus thousands, maybe 10,000, maybe 1 million people focused on entrepreneurship. Then only we will see those successful entrepreneurs, maybe thousands of successful entrepreneurs. So that's the whole idea of this program of National Innovation Agency. We want everyone to have that entrepreneurship skills. So that's the real focus for this program. Let's go to this slide. So very typical scenario. I think I will just give you how we can build entrepreneurs. One of the scenario is that the Korean example. Korean example is very simply what in 1970s what the famous president did was he supported the successful entrepreneurs. For example, if you take say Samsung was a successful company even 1960s and 1970s, but nobody knew about Samsung. For example, Samsung was like say Cargill's in Sri Lanka or SoftLogic in Sri Lanka. So everybody knows, but if you ask from some Indian, do you know about SoftLogic? Nobody knows. So similarly, Samsung also was a typical company. They were actually a trading company. They bring electrical items from outside and they sell it. They were a department store, but everybody in South Korea knew them. So there was a successful entrepreneur behind that, but they never focused on real production or real next level target. So what the president said was the government would support you for Samsung, but not for the existing business, but for leapfrogging industry. For example, what is leapfrogging means? Now I mentioned about the industry S-curve. So moving from one industry S-curve to a next is probably should happen. But if you can jump from two S-curves, two technology S-curves, is what is known as leapfrogging. So what the president said was, if Samsung wants to leapfrog their industry, government will support you because that's a very risky thing to do. So that's what government did. They supported even as regulations and typical things the government should do, but also even funded Samsung to getting into. I mean, they were just bringing electrical items and selling in South Korea, and they started building electrical items and they started building electronics items. So that was a kind of leapfrogging for them, and that's what made the entire difference. And Samsung was today one of the household name globally. Everybody knows what is, and one of the, if it's actually the biggest consumer electronic company in Sri Lanka, company in the world. So I think that's how the world changed because of that one policy by South Korea. And not only Samsung, there were 5 other or 6 other chaebols created, and that's why South Korea became one of the most developed country globally. So if you go to the next slide, this is again Israel's story. It's completely different. South Korea supported the well-known entrepreneurs, big-time entrepreneurs, to leapfrog the industry. But then Israel had a different model. They supported the small timers like university startups, young entrepreneurs, tech entrepreneurs, and all these people. And they helped in 3 different ways. I think if you read the book Startup Nation, you will know. So the Israel as a country, they supported it in 3 ways. One method is they started helping the universities, tech startups, tech entrepreneurs, especially in universities, to support them with whatever the programs, and also even started helping them, even giving technologies, technical support. Then the government supported what we call the venture capital industry. They supported building the venture capital industry in Israel, and that was not only from Israel investors, but they took it to the level of bringing money from USA, especially some of the cities were connected with Israel, and then also through Dublin and various other places, they built the venture capital industry in Israel. And the third thing is they brought market access to all the startups. So that's how some of the Israel startups could build to the level that not only they sell in Israel, but in Europe and also American market, and became $1 billion startup. So it's a different method. Israel government supported startups, and the Korean government supported the big industries. So for Sri Lanka, we don't know whether one of those methods is the right one, but we have to have our own method. But I would say we can look at both options, and there can be other methods as well. For example, Vietnam have a unique method, and even India is going forward in a different method. So we can look at all this. So let's move on to this slide. I think this is very important thing that you have to understand. This is, if you look at the first part, talks about the science basic research. This is what usually happen in universities. But the problem is, I mean, it's very important to do research in universities. I think that's the fundamental thing. But if you look at it, it's a risk thing to do. The value creation is small because you don't, here value means the money, right? The money creation is small, obviously, because what comes out of university research could be maybe a journal article, or maybe sometimes could be some patents, but then the chance of selling it and making money, there's less chance. But if you go to applied research, the next one, next pillar, obviously you can do applied research at universities also, but I mean, applied research has little bit more money because applied research usually focus on technology commercialization. I think that's what the typical change we should anticipate even in universities. Again, even applied research will not be sufficient enough to bring a lot of money. The real money comes in the next two levels. If you look at this is what real entrepreneurship is all about. The third pillar is we talks about the we call it the component manufacturing. So, for example, in Sri Lanka, most of the apparel companies are doing this. They supply components or products for big brands. So a lot of Chinese companies are doing the same thing. For example, manufacturing mobile phones, do all these things. And if you look at even in IT industry, a lot of our Sri Lankan IT companies are doing the same thing. They produce a product for another third party, like a B2B product. So this area has a lot of money. But what to understand is the real money is in the fourth quadrant, the fourth section, which is we call it product design engineering. So product engineering doesn't mean you are doing engineering per se, but it's about, I mean, it could be even it could be pharmaceuticals, it could be anything. Basically, you have to do a product that goes to end consumer. So all these products that we talks about today, maybe mobile companies like Apple, Samsung, cars like Tesla to Toyota Corollas to all these places and Pfizer to all these drug companies, all these are doing working on these fourth quadrants. That is where the biggest amount of money. So if you look at all these companies, where they start from, where they headquartered at, you will see those companies are the most, those countries are the most, wealthiest countries in the world. So I think this is where what entrepreneurship can do. Entrepreneurship brings these product design engineering companies. I think that's what we need to focus. I think Sri Lanka has the right formula to do that. And why we really focus on startups is startups are actually focusing on this industry. I mean, fourth quadrant industries, products that can go into the consumer direct. Professor, can we go to the slide, earlier slide? No, one before that, one before this. No, one more. Yeah, this one. So let me give you some insights. So how we can improve innovation and entrepreneurial capacity. I think there are very few. I mean, there are a lot of things you can do, but there can be simple things that you can do and make a big difference. So just understand this. One of the most important things that you should do if you want to promote innovations wherever you are, in your company, your university, your classroom, wherever that you are, is that you have to create this, what do you call, idea collision, right? You have to collide ideas. So this is known globally. How you improve innovation, entrepreneurial spirit is basically you have to collide ideas. How you do that is basically in very simple terms, you have to start sharing ideas. I think that's where what especially Sri Lankans and even some South Asian countries are lagging behind. When you get a brand new idea, super idea, we try to hide that idea. So I think we shouldn't do that because that's the biggest innovation killer in the world. So I think whenever you get an idea, what you have to do is you have to start sharing that idea. So I think when I say that, a lot of people might say, okay, if I share my idea, my friend might take it and become a millionaire, which he will steal my idea. So if you have that fear, remember that you are not a good entrepreneur. You can't become an entrepreneur. You can't become an innovator. As long as you have that, fear, nothing will happen, because innovation is not about finding new things, right? Finding new things may be inventions, but innovation says that you have to make sure that new thing has to go into the market, right? So taking it to the market, so the entire life cycle, if you look at the technology to taking it to the market, this needs a lot of expertise. Just one expertise won't help you. For example, you may be good at say electronics, or maybe you're good at chemistry, you may be good at physics, but that doesn't ensure that you can market your product as well. So marketing, selling, business knowledge, maybe legal side, all this will not be there in one person. So what it shows is if you want to be a successful innovator or successful entrepreneur, you have to be a team player, and you have to have a team. You have to have a few people supporting you. So that's why if you look at almost all the big startups that really created big hype, there was a nice team behind it. I'm not talking about a team of 20, 30 people, but 3 or 4 people. For example, even the case of Mark Zuckerberg, even though he's known as the one who started Facebook, he's known as the co-founder of Facebook. There were 3 others who were supported, and Zuckerberg was not the tech guy. There were other, like Moskovitz was the tech guy, and then there were other people who supported, but Zuckerberg was the chief strategist and obviously the marketer as well in the company. And this different skills connected really well, and that's how it became such a successful startup. So I think sharing means you have to share that idea with a group of people, preferably with different skill set. So that's what is important. Just sharing your idea with a similar kind of people also won't help. You have to share your idea, and what you should do is, after sharing that idea with a very quick iteration, you have to develop that idea. For example, when you share this idea with different people, they will come up with different ideas, and you can fine tune that idea really fast. And this is a concept that is now believed as one of the most successful methods to take products to the market. We call it a design thinking methodology. So I think what design thinking talks about is basically taking ideas to the market really fast, really rapidly. So I think I need to touch upon that as well. I have about a few minutes left. So let me go to Professor Ron. I think we can go to the others. The last slide that I shared today. Maybe the rest of the slides may be not enough to talk about today. This one. So before this, slide before this. No, one after this. One with the design thinking. Next one. This one. So remember, I think if you want to become entrepreneurs, this is something that you need to understand really well. Entrepreneurship today, it talks about the right product market fit. So, and also you have to be timely in the market. You can't take years and years of research and then take you to the market. I mean, there are certain industries that you have to do years and years of research. For example, pharmaceutical industry, biomedical, maybe you have to do that. But the rest of all the other industries, even pharmaceuticals, if you look at now what happens during COVID time, you saw that, within like a couple of months, they even developed from research to final product like a vaccine in a very short period of time. So even biotech also, now we don't talk about years and years of research. It happens really fast. So that real fast product launches are really required if you want to be successful. So I think if you go through the typical scientific thinking model, it's difficult to reach that kind of real fast product generation. So I think that's where the design thinking help you. So design thinking it doesn't talk about years and years of research, close research. It talks about, for example, even at the very idea level, you talks about that idea with a lot of people. You share your idea, and with that sharing of idea, you build the real product that you need to take to the market, and make sure that you develop the right product that the market wants. So I think let me start with the initial stage. I think maybe you have already known these things. So design thinking is a process. It starts with empathizing, then defining, then ideate, prototype, and test. So this particular 5 steps will, we will do it number of times. So it's a repetitive process. After testing, you will go back to empathizing. So what means empathize is, I think maybe you have to understand, this is something that we Sri Lankans are not so good at. We are good at sympathizing, but not so good in empathizing. So sympathizing is basically, obviously, that when somebody is in difficult situation, sad situation, you also, feel the same. But empathizing is a different thing. Empathizing is where you look at from somebody's shoes. For example, if you want to develop a product for old people, you have to think like an old person, or maybe at least you have to go and live with old people, understand what their difficulties are, what their problems are. And if you want to solve, say, a grand global challenge like, say, garbage problem, You have to be with the people who are facing that garbage problem. Maybe a house near a garbage dump, or maybe you have to become a garbage collector. Without that, you can't become a real entrepreneur, or at least your team has to be working with that. Similarly, if you want to come up with an agri-tech product for agriculture, you have to first become a farmer, or maybe you have to work with farmers. Otherwise, you can't come up with the ideal product. So empathizing is basically you find probably your customers, your stakeholders, and identify what they go through. And defining here, the next step is basically very simply, it's not about defining ideas. This is defining the problem rightly. So through your discussion with the people or the set of people you empathize, you have to identify the real problem, where the real problem is, and define what is the real problem. So then that's the first stage. Empathizing and define the problem is the first milestone, and then only you start ideating. So you can't ideate for anything. You have to first define the problem right, and then only you have to ideate a solution for that defined problem. So ideation, again, you expand, you can come up with any ideas, and then you have to you have to choose the best idea out of that. Best idea could be maybe something that you can achieve much faster, or maybe the most cost effective one. So we can use a lot of other concepts. So you ideate, and then focus on few or one or two good ideas to implement, and then you pick one of them and then go to the prototype stage. You prototype, develop something that is you can touch and feel, or see it, or identify what exactly this product is doing, and then you test it. So the last stage is test. And remember, you are not testing with your own team, testing with the same people that you empathize with. So remember, this is where a lot of people do a lot of mistakes. They sometimes test it among yourself or your team. That's not enough. You have to test the same product with the same people that you empathize with. So if it is a product for all people, you have to go and show that product, test with the people, with the old people. And then only you will realize that what you develop may be not really suitable for the people that you empathize. Then if there's a change, you go through that same cycle, empathize, define, redo the same cycle number of times until you take to the market. But if you can do this circle, this steps really fast, you can really take it to the market, a product that what your potential customers are looking for, and a really quick time. So this is the model today used by world-class organizations, world-class startups, real entrepreneurs, to take products to the market really fast. So I think you have to understand entrepreneurship lies on few things. The real success, number one, a lot of people say, is the timing to the market. So I think timing means you have to be in the right technology, right product at the right time. And this talks about getting the product really fast. So I think design thinking really helps that. Then the second most important thing is, this is valid if you want to go for investment and get other people's support. You have to have the integrity as an entrepreneur, right? If you don't have the integrity as an entrepreneur, it's very difficult to get funding. So something that you have to prove yourself more than your product and product idea. First, you have to show that you are a person with integrity. So I think that is where you can get funding and easily from investors. So first thing is the timing. Second thing is you have to show that your team has that real power and the integrity, your team is the best for this product, not only just to come up a prototype, but to take that product to the next level and solve the problems of millions of people. So I think these are the fundamentals of entrepreneurship if you want to be successful. So I think, Professor, my time is over, so I can wind up. But
yeah,
if you have any other, if the audience have questions, maybe they can direct that on a later day, or maybe even today. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Heminder, because you try to brief a huge area into 40 minutes. And I couldn't believe how you did that. So I think there are a lot of good points participants got today from Heminder. At least they now know how wide and breadth this word is, how heavy the word is, entrepreneurship, right? Even to catch the essence of this word takes some time. So I think that is the highlight of the talk today. Heminder is a very experienced person in this domain. He's living in this domain, not just teaching or preaching. He's actually practicing this. So that's why it's so genuine and so real, right? All these concepts. So thank you, Heminder, once again. We will be in touch with you with the questions coming from the audience. Because of limited time, we cannot have a Q&A today, but I request all of our participants to send their questions to the chat room, to the common email address. We will collect all these questions and get the questions answered by Hemid himself. All right, Vindhya, I think because of time limitation, I think it's time to invite our next speaker. Go ahead, Vindhya.
Thank you, Professor. I think it's visible again.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Heminder, for taking your valuable time, and it was really inspiring and very informative. I hope all the participants will take on his message, and it's my pleasure to introduce our next resource person, who is very inspiring young entrepreneur in this field. So let me introduce Mr. Migara Amitodana. Mr. Migara is the CEO and co-founder of MagicBit. He is a chartered engineer by profession with over 10 years of experience in the ICT industry. He obtained his bachelor's degree in electronics engineering from University of Moratuwa and MBA from University of Colombo. He has been involved in developing award-winning innovative digital products in Sri Lanka, and he is passionate about promoting innovation for the next generation around the world. So it's my pleasure to welcome Migara to this platform, and hope he will inspire all the participants in this course for the next level of their innovative journey. So over to you, Migara.
Right. Thank you, Vinda, and hi everyone. My name is Migara. It's a pleasure to be here in this course to share my experience with you. So my objective would be to share my entrepreneurship experience with you. So I would stick to share my story rather than going through a presentation. Then maybe you can connect the dots between what Heminder discussed with you and the practical scenario. So it could be different from person to person actually. So how we started the company MagicBit was, now as everyone else, we were doing some side hustles while we were working in the industry. So we used to do with a couple of my friends called Anuruddha and Akalanka. And we were doing these side projects mainly related to technology like IoT, electronics and all that. And while we were doing that, we got some requests from the education sector, especially from the schools, universities, to develop some products for them to teach the students about programming, robotics, Internet of Things, and that sort of technology-related innovation. So basically, they are like circuit boards. We call them microcontroller development boards. So we found out by researching that there's a demand for these sort of products because of the emergence of the education system called STEM education, which promotes innovation, and it's a big thing in other countries. And on the other hand, the global edtech market was also booming at that time, around 2019. So we saw that there's a market opportunity, and we even got the demand from the customers as well. So we then developed this product called MagicBit in 2019 as a prototype basically. And then we initially developed some initial versions and sold to a couple of people who were willing to buy that and some institutions. And then we got the feedback from them and tried to make it better. And so we actually didn't have a huge capital to invest on this one and all that. So then we got into this Spiralation Startup Accelerator. So I think startup accelerators are a great opportunity for everyone to, on the other hand, on one point, you can evaluate your idea. On one hand, you can get some knowledge support plus financial support. And even these sort of programs actually help us to, we all have also participated in these sort of programs to get the knowledge related to these areas. So we participated in the Spiralation Startup Accelerator by ICTA. And through that, actually, we gain knowledge about how the startups are running and how we can develop the product. And we got some funding support as well. So then we commercialize the product based on that. And we wanted to actually take the product, our Magic Bit product, into the world as well. Basically, Magic Bit is a learning kit. It's a physical product actually, where students can learn about coding, robotics, and that sort of stuff, because the physical products comes with the software, the lessons, content, and everything. So they can actually connect the Magic Bit board to a computer and program it, create small robots, and do IoT practicals and all that. It's all about innovation.
Midar, sorry
yeah,
to disturb. If you have Magic Bit stuff around, why don't you just show it to the participants? This is Migara's product. He's an entrepreneur.
Okay.
He's an inventor.
Yeah, maybe.
This is what he has got.
So I think it will be easy to share the screen actually, sir, because I don't have a product with me right now. So so our products are something like this. So this is what we call the Magic Bit Master Kit. Apart from that, we have few kits actually. What we develop is these are like small, in case you are not from a tech background, the simplest way I can put this is actually it's a small computer board which can be connected to a laptop or a computer, and it is programmable. So you can, the kids can program it and they can create new inventions. And we teach them through our content, the software and these products, them how to do this stuff, because now technology has become a part of our life, and innovation and creativity is hugely promoted for the next generation, and that's what we are doing. And so basically, after we started this journey and after prototyping and commercializing the product, then we wanted to check the international waters as well. And then we launched something called a Kickstarter campaign or a crowdfunding campaign. So when we were searching for new opportunities to grow our company and to get the international attention and all that, we came to know about this opportunity and we launched an international crowdfunding campaign. And it was a great success. So on the other hand, I think through that, we were able to get the support of our friends, family, and everyone, which provided us some boost in the international space as well, because everyone knows some people from outside Sri Lanka as well. So that actually boosted our product and our campaign. We exposed to a whole new audience. So we got a really good reach through that campaign in the international market. And that helped us to get some recurrent orders as well and to develop some partnerships. And then while we were actively selling the product and providing services to others, we raised a funding round by convincing the investors about our growth and the opportunities we have. So obviously we were actually generating some revenue at that time, but not much actually. Then we thought if we can get some more money, we can actually grow the team, grow the inventory, do some marketing and generate more revenue. And that's why we raised some funding last year with the Lankan Angel Network. And I think even for others, I would like to share that there are many investors looking for opportunities for high growth companies. So if you have a really good story and a very good product and some traction, obviously there are investors looking forward to invest for companies like that. And through investor money, we were able to expand the team and also to complete our product ecosystem as a complete solution. So far, we have about 5,000 users. It's not much, But actually, the valuable part is our users are spread over about 40 countries. And we have helped to establish about 60 plus school innovation labs, and our products are accredited by the USA, STEM.org. And we even won the best startup of the year in the /Com Ingenuity Awards last year. So those are some milestones and achievements. And we have a product map as well. So like we are developing some AI and drone related stuff in the future. So what we are trying to develop, our end goal is actually develop a comprehensive AI assisted STEM education solution. So that's our end goal. We are not there yet, but we hope to go to that destination. On the other hand, we are as a company, we started this company because it is personally connected to us as well. Because by 2019, all three of our co-founders, we were married and we were having kids. So we actually wanted to do something for the next generation. So that was kind of we had kind of a personal connection to that as well, and that's why we created this product and developed this ecosystem. So we have a end mission of empowering 1 million kids throughout the world through technology innovation. That is the mission we are in. And mostly, on the other hand, what I didn't cover in our journeys, we hope to actually reach out to more countries and to grow the company. That is what everybody is looking for. But I believe that that we have a misconception among the founders that if you had more money, we can do more. Honestly, it's not like that actually. So there's a organic growth rate we all can achieve through a product or even MVP, a minimum viable product also, especially if we are solving a really good problem. And one thing I learned through this journey is also making decisions very objectively, like which means make your decisions based on data. If you are developing a product, you actually get the evaluation of the product from your customers, from your users. Then once you develop the product, there will be about 100 customers if you have already spoken to 100 people before building the product. So likewise, if we identify a genuine problem, find and develop a genuine solution for that, selling at a reasonable cost, definitely there will be customers. And I think that's the biggest secret of any high growth product or a company. On the other hand, I think what worked out very well for us was our three co-founders, Anuruddha and Akalanka and myself. We were batchmates in the university and we were really good friends for about 15 years. So we knew each other very well. And we three of us had working experience in different sectors. So honestly, the initial prototypes and everything, so most of it we were able to do among ourselves, which actually proved our capacity to investors and even at the evaluations and everything. So that helped us to develop a lot of credibility for our product, about our team and everything. And so even the investors and even the startup accelerators and everyone, I think they were very confident that we were able to do this job, especially. And on the other hand, I think that's what everyone is looking at a start, at the initial stage of a startup or a product. I think even the users, your consumers, your B2B partners, investors, accelerators, everyone is actually looking at whether this team can do this job, whether they can deliver what they promise. So I think since we were able to do that, we even with a small team, and that gave us to grow on that, on those partnerships, on those opportunities and all that. And on the other hand, I think if we develop a really, really good product, the product will be sold by itself. Like nobody asked us to install Facebook, or we didn't install Facebook in our mobile phone because we saw an advertisement in the TV. That's what I believe. So if the product is really good, people will refer it to others and the product will be sold by itself. So that's the ideal situation everyone should look at. And we are also not even there yet, honestly. But we are also trying to go through that journey, improve our product and improve our customer referrals and minimize our marketing cost, increase our growth to other countries and finding more partners, finding more consumers, identifying more strategies to reach to the customers effectively. And we are also going through that growth journey. We hope to do a seed funding round or a series A funding round probably by the end of next year. I think you will learn about this funding and all this stuff during these sessions, and it will be a really good thing to learn about this stuff before you are even if you are in this journey right now, or even if you have not decided whether to get into this entrepreneurship journey as of now, it will be really good to know about this stuff, because even for me it was a really hard journey to learn about all this stuff related to financing, valuations, to developing products, to everything. So I think learning about this stuff is really, really important before you start this journey. If you have this knowledge, it will be a great thing, because then you will be more comfortable. And even in a conversation with somebody, you will be really comfortable and very confident. So I think that's what I have to share with everyone. And if I have to summarize from my journey, what are the messages that I would like to give you? That is actually focusing on a really, really good team. Even though the team is 2 people, we don't call a team for a 1 person. Actually, it should be 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Actually, it should be a really, really good founding team. And also very objective decision making based on data, based on customer feedback and all. And also making something really good quality, really good value to the people. අපි සිංහලෙන් කියන්නේ අර කොහමද ගේමක් ගහමු මල්ලි කියලා ගේමක් ගහන්න නැතුව actually value creating business එකක් කරොත් එහෙම it will be long term sustaining and developing really good thing for the society and everyone as well. So that's what I would like to share with you as the end note. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Yes. Thank you, Migara. I think if I pick up some of the most important points Migara mentioned is, first of all, he talks about his own experience. He's not copying from anywhere, the theories or concepts. He's talking about his own experience. So that is of very high value. And he mentioned that they were trying to solve their own problem. Nikara and his friends, they were having kids at some point in time, and they look at the future of the kids, right? So they were very concerned about that, not to make money by building something and selling it, but they were worried about their kids, their education and all that, and how to bring technology to the kids. So now the participants, you can take these notes very, very seriously, right? This is how a person becomes an entrepreneur. Now, it's not like you think, oh, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur, and tomorrow or day after, to the web, but yeah, okay, now I got it. All right, thank you. So, becoming an entrepreneur is much more natural progression, but you have to actively engage in that. Maybe you are the main architect of the product, like what Migara said. He and 2 of his friends, they were the architects, but they were all tech people. Then they needed somebody to prepare this product lineup for monetary deployment. You need to sell, you need to package, you want to distribute, you want to get user feedback, you want to scale up, you want to make money to sustainably implement this process, right? So you need to build the team, you need to get other people, you want investments into the company, and then you will develop your company that way, right? So I think you got a glimpse of what it is and what it takes to become an entrepreneur, okay? So it's not easy to study by reading a book or reading a YouTube video or even by following this video series, lecture series, it will help, but it will not be quite adequate so that once you follow this, you become an entrepreneur. No, it doesn't happen. You have to make that happen. So that is why these lectures are very important, and experience sharing is very important. You can actually accelerate your journey of becoming an entrepreneur if you take these advices, if you understand these experiences from those who have walked down the lane before you and what they have to share, right? It'll help you to accelerate your journey. It'll help you to think, to change your thinking more towards an entrepreneur. So these are the highlights of the Migaro's experience sharing presentation. And also, I want to highlight one thing Migara mentioned. Now, Migara is not done yet. Okay, he will never probably think, okay, I am done, because this is another characteristic of an entrepreneur. He has a big picture for the future, and he's not there yet. He understands that I'm still not there, but this is where I want to be maybe 5 years down the line, right? So for you also, if you have some ideas, some products, some designs as a solution for a certain problem in the society, you better have a big picture, right? And also a very high end goal, and break it down into intermediate goals and try to achieve the first goal, and then the second goal, then the third goal. Like that, in steps, you can develop your entrepreneurial journey. So thank you very much, Migara. It was very insightful. It was very enlightening to hear to your story. And also Migara mentioned that this is his story, his unique story. Every entrepreneur has a unique story, and we hardly find two duplicates of the same story. Okay. So the participants, when you start your own entrepreneurial journey, it will be very different to Migara's one or Hemida's one or everyone else's journey. So therefore, do not try to follow anybody, right, who has already done his business, successfully built his business, but learn the essential qualities, essential techniques, mindset, and way they handle problems and all that. That's fine. You have to do that, but make sure you customize all these things to your problem, your solution, right? So that is how we identify an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is not somebody who is just following someone else. He doesn't follow anybody, not even the greatest entrepreneur in the world, right? There's no point of following anybody. You have to find out your own unique way with all these helps. Excellent. So we don't have many questions today in the chat room. Migar, if you can look at the chat room, and we have time for some of these questions. We have some simple questions. Yeah, if you want to unmute your mics, please go ahead and ask questions from Migara.
Professor, I think Mr. Hemind is also still joined.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So
we can raise question for both the resource persons,
both
right?
speakers, yes. You can actually ask questions. We prefer it that way, or else you can type your questions in the chat room. We can start with this one in the chat room. What is innovation and why? Some very broad question. I think Heminda answered this question, but Heminda, would you mind giving a short answer to this one again?
Yeah, I think I explained that showing few things, taking Sri Lanka as an example. I think if you look at why Sri Lanka today in a economic downturn, or some call it as a bankruptcy, because we always found that there's a big imbalance between imports and exports. So what we import to Sri Lanka versus what we export, there's always a trade balance, right? We call it balance of payment. So the reason is that what we export is not enough, and most of the things that we export are not complex product. It's very simple products. The margins are very small. For example, if you sell tea as it is, maybe you are getting 500 rupees per kilo, but your production cost may be 400 rupees, and the margins are very small. Say, I'm just giving hypothetical figures, say 100 rupees. But with the same tea, if you can extract something, say a pharmaceutical or a nutraceutical, and then sell it, well, obviously the cost will be higher, but then the margins are much higher as well. So then you can if you look at today, tea industry has about more than 100,000 workforce, or maybe it's and taking about 500,000 acres of land. But what we are earning is only about $1 billion, right? But if you can have the same number of people working in, say, industry, obviously we can earn much more than that. So that's why we have to go for complex products. We have to go for more high-tech products. So only innovation can do that. So if you think innovatively only, we can do that. So that explains why Sri Lanka is a bankrupt country, because we face a balance of payment issue, which is because what we are earning is very little compared to what we import. So if you look at the country situation, more macroeconomic level, also innovation is very important, and we don't see that innovation coming out. So my simple answer is that so innovation is the only way that you can change this country.
All right, thank you, Hemint, for that. There's another question. What are the challenges of innovation? Maybe you can brief one or two.
I will explain this very simply. I think innovation has to happen. There are a lot of things that need to do. I think that's why I said one of the most important thing is that you have to connect with the diverse set of people, right? That's how innovation can be flourished. If you just talk to just like-minded people, similar people, and if you even don't speak to at all to anyone, innovation cannot happen, will not happen. So it's very important that you share ideas and connect with people, learn from the others. For 2 to 3 months, we didn't have anything even to to go from A to B. So some people started cycling, right? But in Sri Lanka, we didn't have enough cycles, right? Bicycle. So I mean, I take a very simple example. If I ask the question, how a bicycle works, everyone would say how a bicycle works. It has the pedal, it has the chain, and that the pedal, what the pedal energy will through the chain, it'll go to the wheel. So if anybody can explain that. So that is knowledge, right? So knowledge is there among everyone. So transferring knowledge is very easy today. Knowledge is very simple, very cheap thing. Knowledge you can get from anywhere. But if I ask this question in a different way, can you take a bicycle, split it down to disassemble parts and reassemble? Then the scenario is a bit different, right? Just because you know how it works, but to do that, I don't think everyone can do that. So if I ask another question, I'm not giving you a bicycle, but build a bicycle from scratch without using a bicycle. So you pick items from all over the places and come up with a bicycle. Then it's even more difficult. And then fourth one, if I ask, can you build thousands and 10,000s of bicycles? Then the scenario is also more difficult. So I think then you will see, say if I ask the first question from 100 people, all 100 people will say, I know how a bicycle works. So that's knowledge. But the other questions, when you go to the fourth question, it becomes more and more difficult. The reason behind that is because it's not about knowledge, it's know-how. So Sri Lanka has a know-how issue, not a knowledge issue. Knowledge is everywhere in Sri Lanka. You just need a mobile phone today to get the knowledge. but know-how is not so easy to transfer. So globally, it's understood know-how is one of the most difficult things to transfer. So innovation comes with know-how transfer, proper know-how transfer. I think that is where we are lagging. So know-how transfer, needs to happen in different levels. So usually what they say is know-how can be transferred only from one person to another. It won't happen through virtually. I mean, it can happen virtually, but then you have to have a long period of time. For example, so if you want to start a bicycle factory in Sri Lanka, maybe you have to go and speak to people. Say in China, somebody who's running a successful bicycle factory, and maybe you have to bring up one or two people from those factories, maybe factory manager, to come and work in Sri Lanka. So that need to happen. That's one of the very few ways you can do that know-how transfer. So innovation, to trigger to the next level, you need to have these kind of very different ways of thinking. So which is not happening in Sri Lanka. I think that's why innovation doesn't trigger that easily. You need to link up with people with different knowledge, different know-how, and so it's a people thing. So if you don't understand this, innovation becomes a very difficult thing to do, because it's not about just knowledge, it's not about just knowing one area, but that knowledge, know-how has to be transferred to a lot of other people, build something, and you have to sell that also. So you need to know a lot of things, and one person can't do it. I think that is where the real problem is.
Excellent. Then can I follow up with Migar, taking off from what Heminder just mentioned? Migar, would you mind explaining to our audience what are those challenges that you faced and how you overcome these challenges?
I think if I describe some practical things related to when we are doing innovations, I think if you are very obsessed with building something, actually sometimes we develop things which might not be useful for the end user, or to the person who will be actually using the product or the service that we are building as well, which sometimes leading us to endlessly develop a product or a service, where you will see some guys or teams actually working on certain projects where it never comes out. It's actually endlessly developing all the time. So I think that is a problem even we have faced in certain times. So I think always if we can discuss with the customers first, identify the problem that they are actually having and develop a solution for that, I think it could reduce the challenges when we are developing developing a new innovation. On the other hand, I think there are three qualities that I think which help to sustain an innovation. One thing, it should be something disruptive or a new in nature. I'm not actually by that idea. I don't want to mean that it should be like out of this world. It could be something in another country, maybe change to the local context as well. So it should be something disruptive in the local context or internationally. And I think it should be scalable, which means I think Hemind also referred to the scale, whether it can be produced in hundreds or 10,000s of units. That is where we need the expertise, the supply chain and everything. On the other hand, I think it should provide a reasonable cost. If we can develop, even though we can develop something really cool or really useful, if we can't meet the cost constraints, it's not scalable and it's not useful for the others. So I think if it's economically feasible, if it's scalable and robust, and on the other hand, if it's disruptive, I think then that reduces the challenges for innovation. I think those are the three challenges I see in most of the innovation. And on another thing that I would like to mention is for everyone to actually ask the questions from the resource person that you will meet during these sessions, because these are some of these people who will be conducting your next sessions, like even Heminder. some people even I have learned a lot, and whenever we face a problem, we have reached out to them and got their advice, support all the time. So there's a really good bunch of resource person in this program. So don't be reluctant to ask questions, because all of them are really helpful. And I think that's how you can learn and gain something more out of these sessions as well.
All right, excellent. Maybe the last question today from the chat box. They ask, this is to Heminder again. Could you please explain the startup life cycle graph again, especially the last two stages? Heminder, would you mind saying briefly explaining the last two stages of startup development? Yeah.
So I think you can take it startup life cycle in different methods. For example, one is obviously, I think I have a slide as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to that one.
Yeah, if you open that, sorry,
hold on,
but I'll explain that. So
one
usually
second. Yeah, go
the
ahead.
startup life cycle starts with you come up with a concept, and then probably you can come up with a prototype. Then you have to start selling it, and then you go to the scale up model. So usually that is the four startup life cycle. But scale up is where I think most people find it difficult, where they fail. But a different way we can show startup life cycle in an investment model. I think that is what I am showing here. Not this one. Maybe go to the next one. Next slide, Professor. If you go to, yeah. So this is, I think, one easier method to no, one before this.
This is the one, right?
One before this. No, one before this. Yeah, this one. Yeah.
All right.
So very simply, I think, I mean, maybe you have seen this picture as well. This is how a startup funding works. So with that, you will realize the steps also. For example, idea stage, maybe only the founder only, or the first person that thought about it. Then very important is co-founder stage. So for startups, I haven't seen startups with one person, right? So startup, it has to be at least two people or maybe more, the founder level. So co-founders, and the co-founder brings a unique thing to the picture, because usually co-founder has to come up with a completely different skill of the first person who ideated. So if you come up with a startup originally with one or two people, then those 2 or 3 people need to have different skill sets. So it's very important. So if, say, 3 software engineers want to start a startup, I mean, it has happened, but usually what happens is it will take longer time. But if you start a startup with a software engineer, marketeer, and a business person, there's a much bigger chance that you can take the product to the market really fast. So third stage is here, the family and friends. So up to the second stage, co-founder stage, it's the money, everything is funded by the founders or co-founders. So then you can go to the level, we call it triple F. Only 2 Fs are shown, family and friends. The third one is actually what is missing is the fools. So that they call it, because at this stage, nobody would fund you, right? Nobody is willing to fund you. If at all you can get funding, it has to be either some rich uncle of you, or maybe a friend that you know, whom you know very well. Or third option is a fool, someone who really, fund you for something which there is nothing. So that's why it's very early stage. Getting funding is very difficult, not only in Sri Lanka, but any other country. But going along this line, I think this fourth stage, which is called the seed round, which is usually known as the angel investment level. I think at that time, probably you need to have more than a concept, probably, or at least some prototype, working prototype. So this is where, or maybe the first prototype of your product idea. And usually remember, when you look for angel investors in Sri Lanka, there are enough and more angel investors. Don't worry about that. If you have the right problem that you have identified, and if you have the right solution for that, there are enough and more people in Sri Lanka to fund you. So don't worry about that. But if you are not getting funding right now, the reason is you have not found the right, you have not identified the right problem, and you have not come up with the right solution. So that's the probably the 80% of the reason, right? And obviously, the other 20% is you should know where to tap, where to identify, where to go and meet the right angel investors. There are thousands, and maybe if not more than that, in Sri Lanka. And there are people who don't know what to do with their money, and they're looking for probable ideas to fund. Maybe if you have not got funds up to now, maybe 80% of the reason is, as I said, maybe you have not identified the right problem and may not have developed the right solution. 20% of the reason could be maybe you don't have the right social capital or the connections to meet those people. So this usually what happens, you don't worry about these numbers. These are more American numbers. So these are all in dollars, but in Sri Lanka, you don't have to go into that level. Much lower investments are enough for a Sri Lankan startup to really go. So seed round is basically, we talks about the angel investor. So angel investor is someone who put money into angel investor is not a known person. He's a completely stranger to you, but he believes in you, and then or the entrepreneur, and put money, not expecting something next day. So angel investors usually invest for the period of even up to 7 years. And they might expect that returns maybe after 7 years, or maybe, in that range, not for a short-term benefit. So that's why angel investors are very important. They are not looking at returns in near period. They believe in you. And also remember, if you get an angel investor, make sure that angel investor brings some knowledge, expertise as well. For example, if you are more techie deep, if you can bring an angel investor from a marketing side, or someone who can bring that marketing expertise to you, or build market access, he's an ideal angel investor. It's not about just money, but someone who can bring the other the support as well. So so the next level is actually the missing piece in Sri Lanka. We call it Series A funding. Usually Series A funds are done by a group of people called venture capitalists. And unfortunately, Sri Lanka doesn't have venture capitalists. There are one or two, but they are not actually based out of Sri Lanka. There's a Singaporean company and a few from Middle East, but there's no Sri Lankan company we can call as venture capital. So this is the next level. For example, Series A starts when you already have a product which is in the market. Until such time, Series A funds won't trigger. For example, you already have a product, and you have sold 200 customers or 1,000 customers. Then only Series A funding starts. And then they look at how you can sell to 1,000, not 1,000, millions of customers. So that's where they bring funding, mainly to market your product, not to build a prototype. So remember these stages. So if you still just have a concept stage, you won't get, if you just have the concept, it's even difficult for you to get the angel investors also. But if you have the prototype, yes, seed rounds are possible. And if you have a selling product, then you can get Series A funding. But in Sri Lanka, as I said, it's a bit difficult to find them. We don't have that. So we have to rely on either corporate funding or some mutual funds for this level. But then they are not as same as the VCs. And the final stage is, we call it the IPO. This is the holy grail of startups, where your startup go for initial public offering, or you sell the startups to some big company where you get the money. So that's where not only the startup co-founders, but also the people behind these investment rounds, angel investors, to venture capitalists get money. So that is we call it the real success of startups. Hope I answered the question. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Heminder. That was a very good question as well. And everybody got a chance to listen to Heminder about the entire startup journey, different stages. Excellent. All right. I think we are out of time for today. And let me thank you, everyone, especially our two speakers today, Mr. Heminder Jayavir and Mr. Migara Amithodana, for sharing their insights with all of us. Wish you all the very best for this journey, because keep focused. This is just the beginning. We have 6 more weeks to come. And I hope you will be engaged and putting your 100% effort and come out of the program as people with different mindset altogether. Okay, think like entrepreneurs. All right, with that, let's wind up the session for today. Have a good night, and I'll see you next Saturday, 7 o'clock. Good night.
Good night, sir.
Night, sir.
Right, sir. Thank you.